wake up with a smile, and then in a while, come to lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies.
Welcome to the Libby Show, Lunch with the Ladies. Today, we're talking theater with three veteran theater actors. Trent Dawson, recognized also from As the World Turns, Jordan Lage, also seen on Madam Secretary, and Christa Scott-Reed, as seen on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and the other two. They are joining the ladies for an informational and inspiring talk on what's going on with regional theater. And you'll find out how you can get on stage at a local theater, no matter what age you are. So let's have lunch with the ladies.
Welcome to season 2 of the Libby Show, Lunch with the Ladies. Thanks for watching. It's not a surprise that regional theater has suffered during the pandemic. Regional theater has always had to work hard to survive, and the pandemic put the brakes on it. However, virtual events did keep it alive. We'll find out why theater is such an important part of the culture and a great place to spend your time. Messalina, can you introduce our guests?
Trent Dawson is an actor, director, and writer based in New York. He has worked on Broadway, The Herbal Bed, off-Broadway, Playwrights Horizons and Theater Row, and at regional theaters across the country. He has also starred in film and especially television, including Homeland, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, NCIS, The Good Wife, NCIS LA, Castle, and more. He received 3 Emmy nominations for his role as Henry Coleman on As the World Turns. He has directed plays and films in and around New York City. Trent is the founding artistic director of Katonah Classic Stage, a nonprofit professional theater in Katonah, New York. Jordan Lage is an award-winning actor, director, writer, instructor, and audition coach. He studied acting with David Mamet and William H. Macy while pursuing a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Drama at New York University. Before graduating at Mamet's suggestion, he and fellow classmates co-founded the Atlantic Theater Company in Manhattan. He has performed in more than 100 productions with Atlantic. He has worked in film, television, on stage, and radio for over 40 years. He has over 70 acting credits, including roles on TV shows such as Billions, The Looming Tower, Better Call Saul, Boardwalk Empire, Madam Secretary, and As the World Turns. Jordan teaches acting, script analysis, sketch comedy writing, does audition coaching, and conducts his Acting the Plays of David Mamet workshop. Jordan has appeared in almost 24 of David Mamet's plays and 5 of his films. Christa Scott-Reed is a New York-based actor and director. Her acting credits include Broadway, off-Broadway, national tours, regional theater, film, and TV. She has performed at Second Stage, Atlantic Theater Company, Manhattan Theater Club, FPA, Irish Repertory Theater, Keene Company, New World Stages, Old Globe, Paper Mill Playhouse, and more. Directing credits include The Great Divorce, A Man for All Seasons, and the first New York revival of William Nicholson's Shadowlands. Her TV appearances include roles on FBI, The Good Fight, The Other Two, Madam Secretary, Elementary, 30 Rock, Gossip Girl, Law and Order, and As the World Turns.
Thank you, Messalina. And thank everybody for being here today. It's another cold winter day. We're hoping spring comes soon. But let's start talking theater. First, I want to go around the room and ask everyone, what's the last regional or any kind of theater performance you've seen? You can't mention something you've been in.
Well, I might just break the rules a little bit, but I saw something not too long ago, actually the end of November, after we did Oleana at Trent's Theater. It was a reading that Trent directed of Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Oh. And I've seen the play several times over the years. It blew my socks off. Due to, in no large part, Trent's direction, of course, but the cast was superb. Mark Lynn Baker played George. Is it Mary McCormick, Trent?
Carolyn McCormick.
Carolyn McCormick, the Law and Order recurring actor.
Yeah.
It was Martha, and I forget the other two, the 2 younger actors' names, but they were fabulous, and I just it blew me away. I was so glad I got to see it, and really, really enjoyed it. The other thing that I saw recently that, okay, yeah, I was into, but It was a Zoom reading, recording of an Emily Mann play, who used to be the artistic director out of the McCarter, a wonderful playwright as well and director, called Execution of Justice, about the incident in San Francisco in the late 70s, where a San Francisco city supervisor killed the mayor and Harvey Milk.
Oh, yeah.
It was a play that Emily wrote just in the aftermath of that. And Playhouse Creatures Theater Company has devoted their season this year to reviving, about a half a dozen of Emily's plays. And this one was the first out of the gate and was excellent.
Well, I have to say, Jordan, Edward Albee is in the air, because the last regional show I saw was, I flew out to Denver, Colorado last month because my best friend is starring as Martha in the Denver Center Theater Company's production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So it seems to be in the air. It was an absolutely fantastic performance. It was amazing to sit live in a theater after so long and see a 3-hour, 3-act play that somehow held me from start to finish. It was fantastic. It was quite marvelous.
Well, the last really wonderful thing I saw was the Virginia Woolf, which I wasn't in. I directed, and I directed Jordan, and this amazing production of Oleana. So those would be my favorite things. But before that, there's a lot of regional theater up here in Westchester, and I saw Animals Out of Paper. It was a wonderful play, just down in Pleasantville at Arc Stages, and that was just before the pandemic took off. I've been trying to get into the city as things have opened up. And what I've noticed with the pandemic is some of the landmark theaters up here shut down because of the pandemic, as they have all over the country. So part of what we're trying to do is revive that. There's tons of audience. They want it up here. But it's been a little bit more challenging to see things regionally because of the pandemic. Things seem to be, knock on wood, opening up again. And so hopefully more actors will come in to the realm here. But that was the last great thing I saw. Was Jordan was in it. It was Oleana. He's a master at Mehmet, and it was just a wonderful production. It was kind of our inaugural show. We didn't know what our audience was going to think, and they loved it. It was a hit, and people came back and saw it more than once, which was amazing. So it was a wonderful experience.
We saw Messalina perform in The Revlon Girl. And that was in New Jersey, and I can't remember the name of the theater. She had just had her baby. She was outstanding and beautiful and energetic, and her mother was in it as well. So that was very cool.
And what was the name of that theater, Messalina?
What was Messalina? What was it?
Called the Barn Theater.
Okay.
That's right.
In North
And it was during the it was during the pandemic, but during a lull in the summer. So we wore masks, and they took a lot of precautions. I felt very comfortable.
So most recently, I went to Bergen Performing Arts Center right before Christmas because I took my son to see the Nutcracker, which was fantastic. I didn't expect him to sit through it all, but he actually did. He fell asleep with the Sugar Plum Fairy, but like he watched everything else. And now every time I play Nutcracker music, he like starts like move along to it. So it was like such a wonderful thing to have that first theater experience with him, and he loved it. So that was fantastic.
Speaking of the Denver Center, when I was there as a graduate student, I remember them telling us that they do such a push to bring young people to the theater because research has shown that if you don't attend a play by the time you graduate high school, you will never go to one again. So the idea is it's how important it is to foster young people going to see live theater and live performances from a young age, and then they'll be lifelong theater goers. So here's to Messalina.
Interesting you said that, Christa, because I did a little bit of research, and actually from one of the theaters that you did some work at, the Actors Theater in Louisville, they did some research to find out about who is going, what theater does. They said it promotes your well-being, but also there actually was an additional study also that said that people think that it's older people that go to the theater, and it typically is, but in 2018, which before the pandemic, 19, probably the last time they could have measured numbers, it's trending down, and now the average age is 40.6, which is
That's amazing.
Great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Messalina, you're right on trend as usual. This is why we always have a young person on the show to keep us on trend. Trent, tell us, there's so many theaters around, regional, community. Yours is regional theater. Can you just give us a little background on the differences?
I always thought of regional theater as anything outside of New York City. So that could be in Westchester, it could be Los Angeles, Seattle, Minnesota, it doesn't matter. And that's how I looked at it. And then community theater, which is I kind of came up in. My mom used to start them everywhere she moved, in like Louisiana and Texas, little community theaters, and they were wonderful. Are community based. It's people that are volunteering their time. They usually have other jobs, and they come in and they do plays on the weekends. And it's wonderful, and it's a wonderful place for the community to get together. Professional theater tends to be people that do it for a living. They're usually salaried and also in unions, typically, not always. And that's just the differentiation that I make. But they're both wonderful for any community to have. We have community theaters up here as well that are just fantastic.
I've seen so many actors do this, especially in the daytime world. I've seen them get into regional theater, and some take on large projects. You took on starting a theater, not knowing that the pandemic was right around the corner, and somehow it survived and you did it. So tell me why you wanted to start this and how you managed to keep it going.
Well, the daytime stuff came second. The regional theater came first. I started in Colorado. It's actually where I met Christa a million years ago. I won't tell you how long ago. We did a wonderful production of A Midsummer Night's Dream together and played the two lovers in that. And then when I moved to New York, I know I wanted to do Broadway and do movies and TV, but I think now in hindsight, I really wanted to do major regional theaters. It's what I studied in school in the Northeast Corridor. And they have these incredible theaters, the McCarter in Princeton, and they have Baltimore Center Stage, which became like a second home to me, and Jiva up in Rochester, and Huntington up in Boston, all these places. And that's where I cut my teeth, and outdoor Shakespeare festivals in Wisconsin and different places like this. And I loved it. Everyone gets to go away for a couple of months, work on a project, and that's their focus, and create something for a community that's usually incredibly proud and grateful to have this in their town. New Yorkers can be very cynical and be like, well, do you want to go see a Broadway show tonight or not? I don't know. Maybe we'll go see something. You go to someplace like Spring Green, Wisconsin, it's an event. People make a weekend out of it. It's something. And also people are dedicated to it. There's not a lot of distraction within the creative team the way there is in a place like Los Angeles, where everyone's just doing a play so they can get their next commercial or guest spot on NCIS. I know I'm being very, very poo-pooey about Los Angeles people, but I lived out there. That's how it was. So I really like the energy that went into creating that. When I moved to New York a million years ago, I started a small company downtown with a bunch of friends from college. A lot of people coming out of drama school do that. And we opened up some spaces that are now like major off-Broadway houses, like the Connolly, which is off in Alphabet City, that nobody knew about that space. And we went and did a restoration comedy there. And I liked how the creative process. Then we all went our own ways and had our own careers. But I said, if I ever get off of the Upper West Side or out of Hell's Kitchen, wherever I was living, and move to a small town that would support something like this, I'd love to start something like this because it was so much fun. And like I said, it kind of lifts all boats, the schools, the commerce, everybody benefits from this. And I realized I was in the perfect town up here. Like 3 years ago, I looked around and said, this is it. We have major music and major fine art and galleries and a community that really wants this. And COVID notwithstanding, this was the right place to do it. This was the right decision. So the soap, as you mentioned, I didn't sign a contract for the first 5 years that I was on that show. So I just kept doing regional theater. I kept going up and down the Northeast Corridor. When I did sign a piece of paper, it was 5 years that were great, but I couldn't do any theater once you're under contract. So as soon as the show went off the air, unfortunately went off the air, I got right back on the boards and went out. I think it's my first love.
And Jordan, you said you were involved in theater, regional theaters. What else have you been working on lately?
Since Oleana in November at Katonah Classic Stage, I did a couple of workshop productions of stuff that may or may not get produced in the next season or two at my theater company, which is the Atlantic in Chelsea. A new musical that the book is written by Simon Stevens, who is a Tony Award-winning playwright for A Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, about 6-7 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So he wrote the book, and the music and lyrics were written by, trying to remember his name, I think it's Mark Eilitz or Eifitz, forgive me. But it was a wonderful workshop. Neil Pepe, who's the artistic director of Atlantic, directed it. I was involved with it. Mary Beth Peel, who's been a long time Broadway regular and who's also a member of Atlantic, was in it. Norbert Leo Butz was the lead, and it was fabulous. And I really hope it does have a future life down the road somewhere. And the other thing I worked on at Atlantic was a new play by, and Trent, maybe you'll appreciate this, new play written by our chairman of the board of directors at Atlantic, Olaf Olofsson, who not only is he a master at raising money for a theater company, he's also a terrific writer. This guy has written a handful of novels and a handful of plays, and this is his newest, and it was fabulous. It read a little like, to me, Yasmin Areza's Got a Carnage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So it was a lot of fun to do, and who knows, maybe that'll have a future at Atlantic sometime soon.
So Christa, I have a question for you. As a young actress, I would love to know from you, how do you feel the industry is for women, both in terms of regional theater and community theater, and just acting and directing and creating theater in general?
Well, the good news is things have definitely improved and continue to improve. As we know, progress marches on. And also, especially, of course, in the creative arts, progressive minds march on in terms of how we can open up more opportunities for more kinds of people, for women, for people of color, for people with disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. And as an actor and as a director, I have found that there have been more and more opportunities for female directors, and female directors being more in demand, and also more opportunities for women actors, not only within plays that have been written by men, but also more opportunities for female writers who are naturally going to write more opportunities for women. Some of the most exciting plays I've seen over the last few years have been, for example, the play Men on Boats, which was written about all of the men in the 19th century who were exploring the Grand Canyon. But all of the roles are specifically written to be played by women. Or the play, Jordan will recognize this from the Atlantic, Eddie and Dave, written by the wonderful Amy Statz. It was written all about Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth, specifically to have women play them, just kind of examine the idea of toxic masculinity from a female point of view. I look at Broadway right now. Macbeth is about to open with Daniel Craig and Ruth Negga. And I was thrilled to see that not only is it a multi-ethnic and diverse cast, but roles like Banquo and Malcolm, traditionally played, of course, by men and written for men, are being played not only by women, but non-binary actors. So we have a lot more opportunities for a lot more people. And that really touches the regional theater world, because as Jordan and Trent will attest, a great deal of regional theater work is classical work, which we all love. But when I was your age, Messalina, it was all, you went to do a Shakespeare play, that was 12 guys and 2 women. And they were young women. They weren't older women either. And speaking as a woman of a certain age, that's important to me. Now, as I said, people are starting to go, why can't Banquo be played by a woman? Why can't, any of these roles be played by a woman? These are just strong classical roles, and we can reimagine things to make the room bigger for all people to enter. And that's really exciting.
Putting different people in the roles, it really is. It's extending the life of it, because it's giving a different, maybe it's a story we've always heard, and now we're putting a female in the role, and it's putting a whole new spin on it, but it's continuing, it's helping it to continue to live in today's times.
Yeah, to make it fresh, because sometimes people go, hey, there's another Shakespeare play. They want to see something fresh. They want to see something inspiring. How does this speak to me today? Anything we do on stage should speak to us in the now. And if women, and I think as we all can attest, you were talking about the age of theater goers, there's also a lot of women in the theater audience. And it's women usually buying the tickets for their families. They want to see themselves represented on stage.
When you think about how when Shakespeare's plays were written, only men were allowed to be on the stage, and so while the female parts are played by men, it just makes sense that it's kind of done a full circle, and now women are getting to play the men's roles. So I love that kind of full circle of it as well.
So I'm a woman of a certain age, and I'm going to ask a question of Jordan, who is a theater coach. For someone who's either did some theater back in college or in their younger days, and had a separate career, and you want to go back, Jordan, what Do you need formal training? What would you recommend to somebody who wants to get involved in their local theater?
As my mentor at NYU
Mhm.
used to love to say bluntly and kind of unambiguously, it was David Mamet was my teacher, one of my teachers, and Bill Macy was the other acting teacher. He would just say, just go do it. One day we were coming to the end of a semester and he just said, well, you guys should all just form a theater company. And we was talking to 30 students in his class, and we just kind of looked around at each other and we're like, what? But when somebody like David Mamet says something like that, you don't just sort of brush it off.
Right.
And we all did. I think what was in our favor is that we had the numbers.
Yeah.
So 30 people coming together as a collective and making sure everything got done. That was a strength, no doubt. You can become a very strong creative force if you find people that are of a like mind. There are enough gatekeepers out there, to keep people from participating in this wonderful art form. You don't need to sort of set one up for yourself by saying, oh my God, I don't have any formal training. How can I possibly blah, blah, blah. Acting training can help you. It may hurt you.
Okay.
Look, I'm not trying to belittle my own training, which I am very proud of, that I got
Sure.
at you and these two great teachers. But it shouldn't stop anyone. I mean, I think the theater just plays it. What factors into it is one's own sense of play, and I think everybody. Well, maybe not everybody, but I think people who have that will certainly bring that wonderful sense to an endeavor such as acting in a play. So, as Trent was saying earlier, almost all communities around the country have some sort of outlet for that kind of thing. Community theaters, there's tons of them everywhere. When I was in high school, I did a lot of community theater in addition to doing plays at high school.
Mhm.
And, hey, nobody asked. I just sort of put myself at their mercy. I did have to audition.
Sure.
I was lucky enough to pass a few tests there. But if you want to do it, just go out and do it. And if you can't get somebody else to do it, then do what Trent has done and do what the Atlantic Theater Company has done and do it yourself. Create your own work. If you have that desire and that drive, do it yourself. Don't wait for the phone to ring.
That's exciting. You're saying create, and Chris is saying the room is bigger. And so all this is very encouraging and very promising.
An inspiring story is my friend John Doman, who's an absolutely fantastic actor that people will recognize from The Affair, Gotham, The Wire, Mystic River, just an extraordinary accomplished actor. He was an advertising executive in his 40s, and he'd always secretly wanted to be an actor. And he said, to heck with it, I'm just going to do it. And, he started taking some classes and putting himself out there, doing just what Jordan said, just do it. I'm just going to take a plunge. And I'm sure his friends and family were like, what are you doing? But, and not everybody's going to end up with John Doman's career, but he shows it's possible.
One of my acting teachers told me that acting is one of the few professions that you can't help but get better as you get older, because you live life. And when I was an undergrad, I didn't know what it was like to be married or have children or go through extreme grief or all the great joys and horrors of life. And as you get older, those things happen to you, and you don't have to pretend anymore. And it's why so many really great older actors don't have to do much of anything. You see them on screen or on stage, and they're hardly doing everything. They have all that life in them, and it just comes right through. So I think at any age, you can start going after this. It's very exciting.
The mantra of this show, it's the Libby Show. Libby is an acronym for ladies living in their best years. And it's all about women of a certain age just going out and doing it. Like Mamet said, like you're saying, you just have to go out and do it. And like to Trent's point, we've seen a lot. We have so much experience and we need new ones, but there's less fear. I want to do a little roundtable game. I'm going to ask the question and we'll just go around the screen. I'll call out your names because I think the screens are different. Let us know. We'll get to know everybody a little bit better. First question is, last Broadway show you've seen? Beth.
The Lehman trilogy, the day before they shut down for COVID.
Jordan.
I saw a show that started at Atlantic that is now on Broadway. It's about to close, actually. It was part of Manhattan Theater Club's season, but they are performing at the Samuel Friedman Theater. It's called Skeleton Crew. by Dominique Morisseau, and it's a fantastic play. I wouldn't be surprised if it's it's good. It's definitely going to be in the running for a Tony for Best Play this year.
Messalina, what about you?
I think it was Anastasia. My parents managed to get my sister and I tickets right before it shut down, and we loved it when we were little kids. We watched the film all the time, so that was like an amazing childhood moment brought to like adulthood and seeing that. So that was a lot of fun.
What about you, Christa?
The last one I saw was recently. I saw Slave Play before it closed.
What about you, Trent?
Right when Broadway was opening back up from the pandemic, I got to see To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was wonderful. Yeah.
And I saw, I think the name of it was the Meatloaf one. I think it was Bat Out of Hell. I think that's the one thing I can remember.
Awesome.
But I'm glad I saw it. Especially now. Okay, next question is Broadway show you're planning on seeing or something you wish would be revived so you can see it on Broadway.
I'm taking my kids to see Book of Mormon. I had seen it. They are not big theater goers, despite all my efforts, but I think they'll really like it. I think they'll find it fun, and the music and the lyrics are so good. So that's what I'm going to do next.
Well, I want to see Mockingbird because I have yet to see that. But I think next season, if Patti LuPone is still available, which I think she will be, we're going to be treated to an all-female production revival of Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh, wow.
And Patti is going to be the lead. She's not playing, if you know the play, she's not playing Ricky Roman. She's playing Shelley Levine, who was the elderly salesman among the the real estate office. Anyway, that should be kind of amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That will be my answer. Messalina, what about you?
I don't know if this counts because it was actually going to be on the West End, which is the UK's equivalent of Broadway, but I was meant to see The Prince of Egypt right before the pandemic happened. So I'm really hoping that I manage to make that happen at some point, or if it comes to Broadway, that would be fantastic. So fingers crossed.
I cannot wait to see the opening of the musical A Strange Loop, which is going to open soon on Broadway. It's a new musical by Michael R. Jackson. It played at Playwrights Horizons before the pandemic. I saw it then. I'm going to run to see it again. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's very exciting.
American Buffalo. I cannot wait to see that on Broadway.
Give me just a few shows that you've been binging.
Okay, if I look bleary-eyed, it is because I was up till 2 in the morning, but I have not yet finished. I know. Because I want to watch Mrs. Maisel, but I can't watch Mrs. Maisel until I finish what I'm watching. And it was Inventing Anna. So it is really, I can't put it down. And that's why I look so tired.
My wife and I watched all The Crown. This would be
Oh,
last fall. We finished it last fall, but just unbelievable. Highly recommend that. And we also just watched every single episode of Somebody Feed Phil, which is on Netflix. And this guy, Phil Rosenthal, who's a producer, he produced Everybody Loves Raymond, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided to kind of pick up the torch where sadly Anthony Bourdain, passed it. And he went out and did his own sort of food traveling around the world show. And he's hilarious and he's so charming and disarming and funny. Highly recommend it. And he talks to his parents, when he's in like Istanbul or, Dublin or wherever. It's just great.
Recently just finished Crash Landing on You, which is actually
love that show.
I was obsessed. I love it so much.
Oh my God, it was so good.
I loved it. And I just loved how good an ensemble cast it was. Like all the actors just had so much character and personality, and like you loved everybody in it. So that was amazing. And I'm also watching Boba Fett because Star Wars. So.
My daughter's just turned 17 the other day, and she, for the past 2 or 3 years, she's been binging K-dramas.
Yeah.
Mostly on Netflix. And she said to me, "You have to watch this show with me, Dad." And I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Just watch the first episode." And it was Crash Landing on You. And I was like, oh my God, it was amazing. I mean, the acting is fabulous. The stories are fabulous. I think it's 2 seasons, right, Messalina?
No, it's like they do them differently. So it's basically like they do very long extended seasons. So it feels like what would be 2 seasons over here, but they do it just as one. And then and so when you start a series that there's only that one season, but they go on for forever. So it's nice. You get a lot of episodes. But I agree, like Korean dramas, I'm just like, it's a whole new world has opened up to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, these are amazing.
Big thumbs up to K-dramas and especially Crash Landing on You.
I have been loving the show Somebody Somewhere on HBO.
Yeah.
Oh,
I come from a smaller town in a rural area in the West, and it is so rare to see small town life portrayed accurately, not as hokey or talked down to or patronized. Like, it's real people, it's funny, it's warm-hearted, it's just charming. I'm loving that. And of course, because I'm a, New York classical theater actor, I got to be watching The Gilded Age, because I got to see those actors that we know with those fabulous corsets walking down those 19th century New York streets. It's just,
Krista,
we have to watch it.
I love that show so much. First thing I did was Google, where are they filming this? And I can't figure out what day it drops. I think I've watched the episode 3, Face the Music, 3 times already. I keep telling my husband, you might like this one. There's like a whole stock mail story to it also, but absolutely love it. I mean, it's a little bit like Bridgerton, but I don't think it has as much comic relief as Bridgerton. But just the costumes and the scenery and the history, I think it's just excellent.
Yeah, and if you've seen a musical in New York in the last 10 years, you'll recognize most of the cast.
Yes.
Yeah, can't wait to see that one too. Donna Murphy's a pal.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Trent?
Well, I probably like my colleagues here, I've been trying to catch up on all the SAG nominee movies because we're voters and we get to come up with that. I just watched Licorice Pizza last night. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was such a great coming of age story. But since this is also about women and opportunities for women, the show that I did not expect we were hooked like a drug was Yellow Jackets on Showtime. All women on screen, a lot of women behind it and creating it, and it is just a ride. If you like, it's got a little bit of that kind of magic realism, and I don't know, I don't want to describe too much of it, but it is so much fun, and there's so much great acting in it too by young people. It's really fun, so that's what I'd recommend.
I'll put in one more plug for a movie that I saw recently, just last week, in fact, that a lot of your viewers might like, Parallel Mothers, which is the new Pedro Almodovar film starring Penelope Cruz. All I can say is it's fabulous, and she's fantastic as she always is, but I found it very, very moving. My father's side of the family is half Spanish, and there is a sort of a parallel plot to the main plot that has to deal with the sort of accountability for the Spanish Civil War, and I found it incredibly moving, as well as the rest of the film, and it's beautifully acted by Cruz and the other members of the cast too. Parallel Mothers.
Cool. And I'm going to give a plug now for Yellow Jackets, only because the Libby Show has interviewed Jane Widdop. She was in one of my movies, and I interviewed her before the show came out, and she was telling me all about it and telling me the cast, and I don't think she had a clue as to how well it would do.
Yeah, it's huge. Great.
Huge women project.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up with just everyone give me a sentence or two about where we can see you. Plug anything that you're doing. To start with Jordan.
Well, a not so subliminal message is behind me to my right and left.
That's what the screen more.
Trent made mention of. No, it's the new Broadway revival of American Buffalo by my former teacher, David Mamet, and we start rehearsals next week. I'm understudying both Sam Rockwell and Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh.
If you can believe it. It's a lot of work. In fact, I started relearning the lines. We were supposed to have done it 2 years ago, but the pandemic interrupted rehearsal. But the day after we closed Oleana, I started in on the lines for American Buffalo. So I've been living with those for the past couple of months. But anyway, it begins previews March 22nd. Darren Criss is the third member of the cast. And it's directed by the Atlantic Theater Company artistic director Neil Pepe, and it's a 16-week run, so it should go to about middle of July. I think it's going to be great.
And what about you, Krista?
Well, you can see my directing work if you live across the country. A show that I directed off Broadway is on a national tour. Its next stop is in Orlando. It's called The Great Divorce. So my directing work is running around the country. In terms of acting, probably the next thing is sometime in the next couple of weeks, you'll probably spy my face on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on an episode, wearing a very outrageous hat. You'll recognize me by the hat. And a lot of what I've been doing during COVID has been directing a lot of virtual theater. So I'm currently working on some of those pieces as well.
Trent, tell me, plug away about your fantastic Katonah Classic stage.
Yeah, I will plug. It's been quite a journey, but we made it. We got our first major show open. We are planning to do Private Lives in the fall, directed by Christa Scott-Reed. We are doing readings and stuff between now and then. Next weekend up here, we're doing a reading of the great play Art. I will be in it this time, as will Jordan. And it's going to be it's a funny play. And we got one more reading coming up in April. So go to our website, Katonah Classic Stage, and we'll have a lot of things between now and the fall. We also do a film festival, which you know about, Suzanne. We started that out of desperation in 2020 because we couldn't do a play. So we did an outdoor film festival. It took off. It went international. And so it's become a great part of the community here. So we'll be doing that in August as well.
Very, very pleased to be a part of that also, Trent. You did a
Yes.
great job with it. We end the show, just a quick line with a charity, and we'll flash it across the screen. If there's a nonprofit or something you'd like to give a shout out to, please tell us what it is. Jordan?
Katonah Classic Stage.
Okay.
Could be better. No, but seriously, I mean, if you
Yes.
find that you're enamored of a particular not-for-profit theater company in your town, they could sure use the money.
Well, I heartily second that recommendation, of course. And I would also add a new nonprofit called Made for Me Books. And it was started to get books into the hands of kids who need books, but most specifically, books that represent what they look like and what their families look like. So it's specifically, especially serving public housing projects and homeless shelters where the kids may not have books, or they might not have books that have kids and families that look like themselves and their families. So I think that's a really important arts related nonprofit.
And Trent, you can
Can I-
plug Katonah again or something else.
I think I have to. I have to plug the theater, but I would agree with Jordan. We're a 501, so it's tax write-off, all that sort of stuff. But there's so many theaters in our position. They need your help right now, and they're great for your community. So donate to us or somebody else. It'd be great.
Thank you all. And I think the message is, I mean, these aren't New York-based actors right here, although they work all over the place, is find your local community theater and donate. The arts need your help, especially now. Before I sign off this show, first I want to thank everyone for being here. It was so nice to see people. Maybe next time it will be in person, but definitely all these plays that you guys are in, we're going to come see you. I just want to give a plug on season 2. We have a lot of actors coming from romance movies and the world of daytime. We also have booked the marvelous Miss Mabon Sherman, who is Amy Sherman Palladino's mother, who lived a tremendous life. She's over 90 and she still puts productions on. I can't wait to talk to her. And coming up on our next show is Kara Meyer Robinson of the Really Famous podcast, who will be joining us as a co-host. So as I say all the time, every day, thanks for watching. And also every day, find some joy and give some joy. Thanks for being here.
Wake up with a smile.